Chapter 2. Simo had checked out the exact location on Google Maps, and driving a rented car, he found the Port Franc et Entrepôt de Genève complex without difficulty. It was much larger than he had expected, consisting of 4 large buildings on the corner of Route des Jeunes and Route de Grand Lancé. The main building was a modern office-style structure, 5 stories high, en Grand Lancé. Behind was a nondescript windowless building that looked more like a multiplex cinema than a warehouse. To the right of the main office was a long, low 2-story building, behind which was another larger off-white warehouse that extended nearly half a kilometre down Route des Jeunes. The site was situated by a railway sidings about 4 kilometres southwest of downtown Geneva. The free port was principally owned by the Swiss government, with a minority holding held by a group of art dealers, collectors, freight forwarders, and mysterious offshore companies. There was not much about the buildings that said they contained the world's greatest private collection of art treasures. A chain-link fencing topped by razor wire separated the site from the outside road. Not as forbidding as Simmons had been expecting, with the kind of access gates and security checkpoints that could be found at any international airport or government building. Once inside, he, like the Freeport's other clients, discovered 24-hour protected areas, closed-circuit television cameras, biometric sensors, secure lifts, heavy metal doors, and in addition a sophisticated air conditioning system that controlled the building's temperatures and humidity so as to conserve the stored treasures in perfect condition. The vast warehouses were composed of endless identical corridors, with locked storerooms on either side. Behind the heavy doors were metal racks on which were carefully stacked wooden cases of all shapes and sizes. They contained paintings, statues, furniture, books, and other treasures deposited for safekeeping by rich collectors and investors living in New York, London, Paris, or Tokyo, far from the eyes of fiscal authorities and other parties interested in their wealth. Some said they also hid works of art seized by the Nazis from Jewish families, treasures looted from archaeological sites, valuable cultural objects stolen from war-torn Middle Eastern countries, and pre-Columbian artifacts smuggled out of Mesoamerica. It was like a vast bank vault where wealth was deposited for safekeeping, commodities to be traded for a profit at a propitious moment, to protect the owners from the vagaries of currencies and the volatility of stock markets. Art had become a safe haven asset, which, in addition, could be safely hidden from tax authorities, covetous families, and ex-wives. The rich could store anything from gold bars to rare wines, collectors' cars, and art treasures in the free port. In addition, they could hire the services of experts and take advantage of specialized showrooms designed to display works for sale or organize small private events in congenial surroundings, far from the prying eyes of the media. In all, more than 1 million valuable objects, besides countless bottles of rare wines, were stored in one of the most secure places on earth, the most precious behind massive steel doors that had nothing to envy from the vaults of the Bank of England in the City of London. At the reception, Simo presented himself to the hostess, and 5 minutes later was met by a customer relations assistant, Jean-Louis Favre, who asked for his passport, account references, and inventory numbers. Simo obliged and announced he would like to inspect objects stored on behalf of his company. A mere formality, as the objects stored in the Freeport's warehouses were the property of its customers, whose only obligation was to declare the nature of the stored items, but not their value. Simo was led to a steel door where entry was controlled by an access code and a key. Favre punched in the code and unlocked the door. Inside, the storage area was lined with metal racks, on which were stacked wooden cases of various sizes. He was pointed to a narrow space not more than about 60 centimetres wide and 1 metre deep, on which lay one small, lonely packing case marked fragile. "I'll have a storeman take it to a viewing room." "Good," replied Simo, avoiding small talk. He was used to bank strong rooms, and assumed the same polite distance that was de rigueur in the free port and was expected by the personnel. The aproned storeman carefully placed the case on a rubber-wheeled trolley, and the assistant led the way back to the corridor and a rather plain viewing room where the case was placed on a table. "Shall I have it opened, Mr. Simmons?" He nodded. The storeman produced a screwdriver and expertly removed 6 screws, then stepped aside without opening the lid. "We'll leave you now, sir. If you wish, you may take anything you need with you," Favre informed him. Simon nodded. "This is not a customs-controlled area, by the way. Our records show Swiss VAT has been paid on this item, a 19th century facsimile, according to the declaration," Favre said, looking into the folder he was carrying. Simon nodded and thanked him. "We have import and due diligence declarations on our files, the latter in good faith. These apply to persons domiciled abroad and to companies having their register's office abroad. The stated purpose is, I believe, reselling the property for the company's or a third party's account." Simon nodded again. "I'm sorry to say our laws have become more complicated, but they are still more favourable to collectors and art dealers compared to our friends across the border," Favre said, nodding in what Simon assumed was the direction of France. Simon made a sign of approval and forced a smile. "Just press on the button when you're finished," Favre concluded, pointing to a buzzer on the wall near the door. Once the door was closed, Simon gingerly lifted the lid of the small crate. Inside was a darkly polished wood box with a silver clasp. He took it out and opened it. Inside, lying on a red velvet lining, was an ancient, very worn leather-bound book. He opened it and turned the thick pages. They were full of what were evidently hand-drawn images, fine images, mostly of plants, some coloured, some not. Certain depicted people, animals and buildings, as well as what appeared to be descriptions in Old Spanish and lifts. Simon then opened his briefcase, removed the cash contained in the large envelope, stuffed the banknotes into the zippered side pocket, then carefully slipped the ancient book into the thick manila envelope, put it into the briefcase, replaced the box back in the wooden crate, then pressed on the buzzer. "Everything in order, Mr. Simmons?" "Excellent." "Would you like to visit the other zone now?" Simon was almost caught by surprise. He checked himself just in time. "Yes, I'll do that." Favre led the way. Again the corridor was long, plain and brightly lit. In another storage room he pointed to a larger space, containing several somewhat larger packing cases, which, from their form, Simon deducted contained paintings. He made a pretence of inspecting them, then indicated all was in order and it would be enough for the day. Simon was then led back to the reception, where, after a cursory security check, his passport was returned and Favre bid him goodbye. Simon returned to the car and, after a few moments of reflection, headed back to the airport, where he returned the rental car, then took a taxi to the Lakeside Four Seasons Hotel, situated in the downtown area of Geneva. He had no trouble getting a room. The hotel was half empty, in spite of the fine weather. The COVID crisis had frightened off the usual well-heeled tourists found in the city at that time of year. The room sent him back a packet, but it overlooked the lake, and the security it offered reassured him. Once in his room, the first thing he did was lock the book and the cash in the room safe. He flopped onto the bed and slept for a couple of hours as the jet lag finally caught up with him. It was 4 in the afternoon when he awoke, and after taking a shower he headed for the nearby luxury boutiques, where he bought a fresh set of clothes and an additional travel bag that went with the style of his own. Back in the room he felt better, refreshed, The lakeside air was invigorating compared to the tropical humidity of Central America. His journey seemed justified after his discoveries at the Freeport, though there were many questions. The first was the book, which even to his non-expert opinion was not a facsimile and was certainly of value. How much remained to be seen. As for the cases remaining in the Freeport, he could return to examine them at a later date. In the meantime, he turned his attention to the book. Examining it closer confirmed it was very old and certainly valuable. Why else would have Wallace taken such trouble to lock it away in Switzerland? Looking at his watch, he decided he would take a walk. In the lobby, he asked the concierge where he could find a good bookstore, and was pointed to Rue de la Confédération, on the left bank, a 15-minute walk away. There, on the busy tram-line street, he found the well-stocked store, composed of 4 levels. An assistant pointed him to the history section on the second level, where he selected a couple of books on the Aztec and the Maya civilizations and a history of the Conquista.